All right, welcome back to the podcast. My guest today is Hannah Moody, 2022 graduate of Ketchikan High School, and now a charter captain.
Yeah, that's me.
And graduate of college. Before we get to the college thing, how long have you been back, and how many guided trips have you taken?
I have been back for 8 days, and I have done 8 charters.
8 charters. So this time of year, what's the charter looking like? Is it kind of a glorified? Because it's off the cruise ships, right?
Yeah.
So people that know it's going to be an off the cruise ship type program, are they just excited to see whales and eagles, or are they really excited about catching fish and hate you if you don't?
They are sure jazzed about catching fish. And it is one disappointed face after another when you let them go.
Are you getting some fish out there?
It's been slow. Today was actually a lot better than it has been. Today we got into some good fish, found some schools, but lately it's just been so mind-numbingly slow.
It's still pretty early in the season. Well, I guess the season opens on the 15th, but this was one of those weekends these weekends are usually circled as historically really big weekends. The King Salmon Derby used to be Memorial Day and the next one, or was it just Memorial Day weekend?
I think it was Memorial Day.
So you probably grew up fishing that.
Yes, we would Mother's Day fish every year when I was little.
Yeah. And then, 7 or 8 years ago is when it switched to
Silver Salmon Derby.
Yeah, so they switched that different time of year. So now you can still fish, but you can't keep anything until June 15th.
Yep.
So how does that affect when people are booking? Do you kind of say this is going to be a catch and release thing, and are there expectations?
Yeah, it's in the description. I mean, they have to read it. So the first big thing is that last year, they weren't really telling people. If you didn't read it, you didn't know. So then they get to the cove, and they're like, straight off the bus, what are we going to catch today? What am I getting? I'm like, you are getting nothing. You might get into one, but we have to release it, and you cannot bring it on the boat. So we were the bad guys. Immediately reflects on us being the first person they see that's telling them this. But this year, they've done a lot better about making sure people know that before they're getting to the boat. I've only had one person. It was like 2 days ago, and she was unhappy because first thing she says when she gets off the bus is like, I want to bring a fish back to the ship, and they said they'll cook it for me. I'm really excited about it. And I'm like, I hate to tell you this, but that's not going to happen.
I can't imagine they would actually cook it for them. You don't just like roll into a cruise ship.
They do. They have a whole
Really?
thing. Yeah, you have to gut it and gill it, but you'll put it on ice, and certain cruise lines, you can do the paperwork, and they'll bring it back to the ship, and they have a whole experience.
Really? Okay, that makes some sense. So your booking is done through the cruise ships. You guys have a contract with the cruise ships or via Ketchikan Cove?
Yeah, Ketchikan Cove is who we work through.
Because I think for the most part, that's how the charters are done. We don't really have, and this is what surprises some people too, they think that they can just come up to Ketchikan, walk down to the dock, and find someone to take them fishing, but that's really not.
Yeah,
most people are booked out
for years.
Yeah, if you have a Rick Collins type program, you're booked out for years.
Yeah,
barring a cancellation, and then if you are in the cruise ship, then you get it through.
Yeah, so yeah, we work every single day, but yeah, that's crazy that people do that. Baranoff would be the place to try to go get onto there and do that, but definitely not for a lodge or Ketchikan Cove at least.
So what boat are you running? What are the dimensions, and what's that setup?
I run the Taylor Ames. It's a little bit smaller than the Hannah Rose, and then my dad has a bigger boat, and I'd like to eventually run all of them. I'll probably work my way up to the Hannah Rose next year, but the Taylor Ames is a 26-foot. It's a little shamrock, and it's a good boat, but I can only take 5 people instead of 6. So that was kind of why I started off with that one. And we have another captain she's been coming back for quite a few years for us. So she's been staying on the Hannah Rose, but this might be her last year. So then I'll move my way up the food chain.
And you're trolling. What's that like?
It's good. It's boring. It's the same circles over and over again, but that's fishing. So it's a good time. I mean, when you get into them, it's nothing like it.
Yeah. How far are you going? Does it depend on how long they're in town, or are all these charters about the same amount of hours?
They're all 3 hours. We have a tight schedule we have to be on to make sure they're back on the bus at the right time. So we literally just go to like Tatoosh or Pup Island.
Yeah, you kind of have to. If you spent 2 hours running, you're going to fish for 15 minutes and come back out.
Yeah.
So, and some of those local areas are really good, and those are historically, again, those are those areas that people in the north end would hit
Yep.
as the kings were coming around.
Well,
so.
I mean, right off the triangle inside of Knutson Cove, my aunt, her first fish she ever caught was a 60-pound king right off of there.
Yeah, those pictures always upset me, and they have them in Klawock too, where like you could see town in the background. It's like right from the dock, essentially. People are catching kings, and you just think, man, that's awesome. I work really, really hard for hardly any fish, or just for shakers.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So the trolling, what type of rods do you have? What type of reels? What's that whole thing?
I fish with ugly sticks, and then I have pen rods. My dad actually just splurged, got me and Marie all new rods, which is so nice. But yeah, that's good gear. I've always fished with that stuff. My dad's kind of stayed true with that. He's a strong supporter of the pen and ugly sticks. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's about that.
The ugly sticks are great because they're not super expensive. Mm-hmm. And if you're running charters, you're going to be breaking them.
Yeah.
So it's way better to probably do that. If you have your own rod and you want to spend a couple more extra $100, but I'm not really sure exactly what
difference it would make.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, a rod is holding your reel. If you wanted like a super fancy reel, that makes sense to me. But I'm like, a rod really is not doing the work.
Mm-hmm. I think in fly fishing, it's almost the opposite because you have to cast out. And so like that sort of feel, you're making so many casts and false casting that you want a rod that's going to be responsive. But when it comes to trolling, one that works. You don't want like a $15 Walmart special. Yeah. So, but something like those ugly sticks are just great rods that don't quit, and you can beat them up, and
yes,
it's all good if they break.
True.
Yeah. So when things get hectic, when you get into a school, what is that like? And what was the first time when there was like chaos on the deck and it's just you running your first charter? Go back to that first afternoon, day, minutes of chaos.
That's a great question. I feel like I worked my way into it because I started with kings, and that's slower than slow in the beginning. But it's kind of, controlled chaos. It's a lot of me yelling at people and them reacting or not reacting. Like today I was out on the boat and we got to a great school of kings. We had a triple on, and that doesn't happen with kings. So and my kicker was down. So I'm up at the front of the boat. I can't really do anything because it's windy, it's wavy. I'm not on my kicker, so I'm not next to my gear. And I am like yelling at people. And there's one guy who's on his phone and his rod is taking off. And he's on a phone call. And I'm like, dude, you gotta go get that. And so I'm practically running him over to go pick up his rod out of the rod holder while he's putting his phone down, moving at the speed of molasses. I'm like, sir, you need to get over there and get your rod. And then another one fires off. And so I've got this guy, and he's reeling in his rod, and he's managing his fish. This other guy, his rod goes off. He's taking pictures of the other guy. I'm like, dude, you got to go get your rod. Like, I'm yelling at him, you got to go get your rod. And then I'm like handing him this rod, and he's like, I got to get pictures. I'm like, do you want pictures or do you want to fish? Mm-hmm. And and then a third one went off, and it was the girl. She was on it. Rachel was on it.
Yeah, that's what I hear.
Yeah, she was boom. She was there. But yeah, the two dudes, I was like begging them to reel in this fish. And I was like, what in the backwards is going on? You're paying me to yell at you to not reel up a fish.
Mm-hmm. Are there moments like maybe today where you recollect and think, wow, I was Jim? Or that was Jim right there.
Oh,
that was
absolutely. And it is tough. It's like a Michael Jackson man in the mirror moment.
Oh, boy.
I'm like, I am becoming my father.
Are you, does that bring shame or do you feel like it's a refined, better version of your dad?
I think it depends. I think my dad is great at his job. He's a great people person. And in that sense, I would like to be like him, which growing up, I was like, I would like to be so far away from the Jim Moody experience as I possibly can be. But now I definitely have a lot more appreciation for him and what he does because it is not easy.
Mm-hmm. So I remember the first time I fished with your dad it was 2020, and your mom works here at the high school, librarian. And so she invited me out to go fishing with you guys because it was May of 2020. So it was like the lockdown and everything.
Yeah.
So I was like, cool. my circle has been one because she knew that I just came back from spring break with my girlfriend, soon to be fiance, soon to be wife. And so it was really cool to go out there. But I remember your dad looking at me and say, I'm taking you on a trip. I'm not showing you a spot. I thought, I know what this means.
Yes.
I will never take my boat to this spot. I'm not marking this. I'm not doing anything to accidentally come here again. But it was clearly stated. It was serious. And then when we were catching halibut, I think we only got 2 or 3 that day. 2 nice ones,
Yeah.
really nice ones. But it was fun to fish with him, and it's a tough thing to do, to be, I don't want to say gruff, but
it is
authoritative.
Yeah.
He has the raspy voice, but also, not just gratuitously mean.
Yeah, he's very good at walking that line, because like he says, he does it even more than I do, is to the extreme, is like, people are literally paying me and coming up to Alaska to get yelled at. And they keep coming back. So obviously he's doing something right.
Mm-hmm. So what about, like, the docking part is always the nightmare. When did you first start learning how to dock like a real boat? Do you call it the Stall 58? Is that the
Stall 55?
Stall 55. That's the newer one. And how long is that?
That's 32 feet, I believe.
Is that the biggest of the 3?
Yes.
Okay. So, or maybe what was like your first docking experience, and then the 32-foot docking that one. How's that?
I actually just now am starting to like dock my dad's boat comfortably. I don't like to do it if there's Tony Azure's boat in front of us, because that boat is big and you have to come in forwards and then whip it around and then do both the motors in different gears. And it's a maneuver. My dad makes it look easy, but that one, I guess since I just haven't done it as much, it seems impossible, but just now getting the hang of it. But the Taylor Ames now is just, it's easy. It's fast. I'm got it down and I don't even think about it anymore. But last year, my first year, about this same time in May, oh man, I was botching it left and right. But luckily, the Hannah Rose, my boat, is right next to it. So I can just bounce off her. It's all right.
Yeah, I don't know if it was your dad or if it was Craig Carson that I had a couple. You get the wind a little bit differently, and the tide's a little different, and so the slip we had was just had to make a 90-degree turn, and then it's just a huge mess. And one of them said, "Hey, don't even worry about it. It's bumper boats out here during the summer."
Oh yeah.
And then being out there and just seeing people like panic and then give it more gas, which then makes it worse, and then flip it into reverse, and it's worse. It is just. So what's kind of, do you have like a self-talk thing in your head to like stay calm, or what's your mental
biggest
talk?
thing that helped me was advice from Marie, who runs the Hannah Rose. And she was like, dude, you're coming in super slow. You have no steering in reverse. You got to come in hot. And so once I started coming in fast, I was able to like, and I literally got home a week ago, and I like brought my dad out, and we were making sure that I still remembered how to run gear and like dock and everything. And I was like, I'm confident. I got this. And I come in hot like I do, like on all of my charters. And my dad's like, dude, put her in reverse. And I'm like, I know, because like I know what I'm doing on the Taylor Ames. Like I parked in the slip all last summer. I know what I'm doing. And so, yeah, I mean, I haven't had anything bad this year. I've been proud of myself. I'm doing well on the docking. But yeah, come in fast. Mm-hmm. And then, which we just said, the people going fast are the problem. Yeah, come in fast if you know what you're doing.
That's good. The opposite of that is not being under power, which then puts you at the mercy of the wind and the drift and the momentum. So taking it out of gear isn't stopping like it is a vehicle.
Yes.
Like a vehicle, you can kind of get out and look how close I'm out of the curb. But that was one of my things when I was starting off is I'd be so slow, and then I'd get out of gear, and you just ruin your angle, and then huge problems.
Yeah, I throw her in forward, and then I throw it in reverse. Tell people to hold on, but it's perfect every time. But unfortunately, I do park on the right side of the slip, and it always blows out of the southeast, so I get blown off the dock a lot. So another big thing for me was putting a line on my boat. It took me half the summer last year to figure out. I'm like jumping off the boat and reaching back for it. I'm like, whoa, who would have thought? Put a line on the boat, and then you just have like your extension to the boat.
There you go. I want to talk about how you got to this point, because you won state in softball, went off to get your license, and then you went to a 2-year school rather than a 4-year.
Yes.
So talked about the getting your license, and then why you chose a 2-year school rather than 4.
So, coming off of that win at state, I had decided after regions before graduation, like very last minute, to get my captain's license at Flagship Maritime, which great program, loved them. It was awesome. But yeah, I pretty much just was like, I don't know what I want to do. I knew I wanted to be outside, and tourism was kind of my jam. I was kayaking the zip lines for a long time. So I just, super last minute, went down right after state. I think I actually flew straight from Fairbanks to Seattle and went straight to get my license the day after that. And of course, I was 18 and I'm a girl. I was the only 18-year-old. I was like 15 years younger than anybody else getting their license. And so that was weird. I was helping a bunch of them with their homework. They couldn't do any of the chart work, which I had maritime with Rick, so I knew what I was doing there. But yeah, it was definitely a choice for me because I knew that like the 4-year path wasn't what I wanted. I knew that ever since my junior year, I kind of had decided that 2 years was all I really wanted to do. I wanted to get out of Ketchikan, and then if that was what I wanted to do, was come back, that was what I was going to do. And it is what I ended up doing, and I'm so glad I did it. Because 4 years seemed daunting. Like, in the long run, I could have done it. I didn't really have a problem with school, but it didn't feel necessary to me.
And then the expense, too.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh, yeah. My school was so cheap, and I am coming out of it without any loans. I am completely debt-free. I have more money in my college account. And so I just feel like, in a way, I saved myself a lot of trouble that way.
And then what did you learn from was it business or marketing was the AA?
I did, I went like the first 3/4 of it, I did business, and I got a ton of business classes, and I really got everything I felt like I needed from that. And then I switched to general, and I just got my general AA because I hadn't taken any fun classes. And I felt like that was really important, especially because like I run a charter boat. I don't really need a degree. So I switched it, and I ended up taking like a film class and a ceramics class, made my mom like a paper towel holder for Mother's Day. It was so fun.
Yeah, that's the thing about, there are a lot of jobs that don't require any sort of degree, whether it be a 2-year or a 4-year. Yet there's an execution that comes with the good ideas. So just because you're in Ketchikan, just because you run a charter boat, doesn't mean you know how to run a business. And there's that business aspect too.
Yeah.
You know how to fish, but are you going to be financially responsible? And then how do you deal with that business end of it? So do you feel like a lot of the gaps that you knew, like your parents have done the bed and breakfast and they're chartering for a while. Do you feel like the business classes really filled in some of those gaps and you feel more prepared?
Honestly, I didn't feel like I got a ton out of it. I definitely got some information, but I feel like I have learned so much more from my parents than I could have got on that. And just really the hands-on experience just makes all the difference in the world for me. I am not great with just like memorizing something. I put it in one ear and right out the other. So like I really have to apply myself when I want to learn something, and with my parents' help, I feel super grateful because I don't think I'll have any problem picking it up.
Are you worried about the future? Because as we just talked about, there was a strong king run that people could fish in May and June. If you look 10, 15 years down the road, are you concerned about where this goes? Or
Absolutely. Yeah, I 100% am concerned about what it's going to look like in 30 years. Because you get all of the older guys at the marina and they're like, 30 years ago, this was not something we had ever thought was going to happen. And just mismanaged, not enough resources, just everything that could go wrong seems to be. So it's kind of leaving my options open. Like, if someday I ended up doing something and, like, buying my dad's business and taking it over, it might be more like fishing 2 days, doing something on the third, or fishing 1 day and then doing something else, which is definitely, like, kept my eyes open. And my parents always tell me to never put your eggs in the fishing basket because there's people running it that, I mean, you can't play the hand of Mother Nature. You never know what's going to happen. So, yeah, I definitely worry about it.
But you're excited still.
Yes,
Okay,
I am.
okay,
I am
good.
the people that come off the cruise ship. I am jazzed.
Yeah, nice. What's been the personality piece? Has that been kind of because obviously you know how to fish. Has that been a fun thing? And people talk about, I love to fish, but when you're guiding, you're not fishing. So how has that adjustment come?
I think it helped me because I had experience with tours before I went into chartering. But it's, like we always say, it's the song and dance, especially during Kings. You are not really fishing. You are entertaining, which I don't have a problem with. I was born with the gift of gab. But some people, it's like, it is a quiet charter over there. You can just see them all standing like sad little wet humans on the back of their boat with no rods, no chit chat. It looks boring to me.
What is the song and dance? What's your specialty?
Oh man, it depends on the group. You hit all of the stops. We go by the Eagle's Nest. Gotta hit the Eagle's Nest.
Yeah.
That is what people love. We talk about the survival trip and what it's like growing up here. People cannot believe that we fly everywhere. I'm like, I graduated MVP Gold, Alaska Airlines.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Good.
right.
Good.
And so, yeah, we totally talk about that. People cannot believe that housing was a thing. That was my freshman year. We housed out.
Yeah.
No longer, but yeah. That's a big thing.
Do you have to field a lot of like stupid questions about you growing up here or you being a female guide?
Yeah, I get my most common question is, how old are you? It's kind of like are you really qualified to be doing this? And I'm like, you could have the guy from Florida who has fished here for 4 days if you want. I mean, I could probably make that happen for you. But, I feel confident in myself. So, yeah, people asking my age a lot. And I did have one dude last year who took one look at me and went and got on a different boat.
Really?
So it's kind of like I felt better off without him. If he's got, I don't know if it was a girl thing or if it was an age thing, but he went and chose one of the, stereotypical fishermen. You picture a fisherman, he went and got on that boat.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, it's not surprising. It's kind of unfortunate, but if you're not from an area, you don't really know the dynamics.
Yeah.
And so, like, is this a weird thing? Is this a novelty thing? So, yeah, I think that's...
The local part definitely does help.
Oh, yeah.
And the girl part probably helps the tip game.
Yeah, yeah.
So...
as far as, like, the other guides and is there, like, an element of competition? Or is it all just that person is competition because they're not from around here, but, we grew up around Hannah and the Moody's, so it's not a big deal. They've been friendly and welcoming?
Oh yeah, totally. Last year they welcomed me with open arms. We really don't compete. We have a great camaraderie down there. We all have a really fun time messing around with each other. And like if something were to happen, I know that there's 10 dudes who are like my dad's age that have my back down there. Mm-hmm. And like they know what's going on. They know to look out for me, and I look out for them the best I can. But yeah, like last year, Ivan could be my grandpa. I love Ivan. And last year there was a bunch of fog, and it was super socked in, and I was a little nervous about it. And I just puttered behind Ivan the whole entire trip. He didn't say a word. He was like, all right, this checks out. She's following me. But yeah, I just stayed right behind him, and it made me feel safe. And like, that was kind of the things that's like, we all look out for each other.
What about like sharing? There has to be some level of, you have to earn it, because if you get all the secrets right off the bat, I mean, do you feel like you still have to earn your stripes?
Oh yeah. I mean, we are still secretive. Like, okay, when it's not us going on charters and we're not all right next to each other, like fishing and watching and walking by each other's gear on the dock and like knowing exactly what everybody else is doing because we're all up in each other's business. Like, we went out yesterday. We went halibut fishing. Somebody asked, where are you going? fishing. Same thing you ask the older dudes. So, where are you guys going? We're going fishing, looking for some fish. It's still definitely the like secretive part about it when you're not like on the job.
It's such an interesting thing because there individually there's what works for you, and that could be just as good as anything else. But someone else does something so different. Have you found that it's more finding out what you like more so than what the best thing is, or is there clearly a best thing that you've got to figure out?
I definitely think it's to each his own. I mean, if it isn't broke, don't fix it. So, like, you could be completely doing something backwards, and like, if you're catching fish on it, catch fish on it, do it. But yeah, I think people expect me to have the exact same gear and depths and mojo as my dad, and I don't. Like, he doesn't fish spoons at all, and I do. So that was kind of figuring that out on my own, which was kind of nice because that's kind of been, there's certain things that I've been independent on my own, and I don't want to follow in the exact way my dad did. But yeah, I think to each person is definitely choosing.
Why do you like the spoon?
I don't know. I just think it fishes well. I normally fish hoochies, but I've been fishing some spoons for kings, and it's been all right.
Yeah, it seems like you can complicate things so much. Even if you're doing a cut plug, like if you're doing a straight up cut plug, you're putting the helmet on it, you have the one with the plastic little thing there, or you use the toothpick, and then it's just do one strip with the hoochie, or I mean, it is wild how detailed people can get.
Oh, yeah.
And if you're on someone else's boat,
It's completely, you're doing it wrong.
you have to do it exactly like they do. It's crazy to see like Dave Mitchell, good friend, hanging out on the boat when the Kings are on. It's a whole different Dave Mitchell.
Yeah, it is.
It's pretty fun.
It is.
But
It is. You
it is
see,
interesting.
you are also getting yelled at on the boat and having a good time. People keep
Yeah.
coming back for it. It's weird.
Yeah, like whatever, Dave. But yeah, okay, that's a good point.
Yeah.
That's funny. That's funny. Anybody not responded well to the feedback you're giving them?
Nope. Never had a person that once was like, that wasn't very nice. Because I'm like, we have the same goal.
Yeah.
We both want to catch the fish.
Yeah. I think if you have the authoritative, if it's passive aggressive or seems disingenuous or tentative, then I think it'd be kind of a second guessing type reaction.
Yep.
But if you know what you're doing, then you know what you're doing.
And for us as girls, it's me and Marie. Both of us, immediately, you need to be like showing people. I don't want to say showing them who's boss, but if you let them walk all over you, they will. Last year, I didn't have the confidence for it. And there was one charter that I like, it snapped. And I like woke up and I'm like, this guy is like telling other people on the boat what to do right now. And I'm like, that is not okay. It is my boat. But yeah, as like dudes, like my dad couldn't even believe that. So like, I think for girls in this industry, it is a little bit different because like you need to be putting that foot down and like showing people that you know what you're doing and you're confident with it.
Have there been any women or girls that you had as clients that like really looked up to you or like wanted to stay in touch or anything like that? Like, hey, I met this Hannah Moody girl in Ketchikan and she just made me want to be more confident or more whatever.
I've definitely had some that like I'll follow them on like Instagram and they keep up with fishing that way through the First City Charters Instagram also, but not a ton. I mean, people do seem shocked, so I'd like to be a fly on the wall as they like go back to the bus. But yeah, not that I know of a ton.
Yeah, I think it's you talked about being a kayak guide and zipline guide, and it's such a great opportunity for all kids up here to have like real world interact with adults who may or may not be appropriate, polite. And so it gives you a different slice of the world, and so it can really grow your confidence, which is a unique thing. So in a way, I feel that some of the kids around here might be more prepared for adulthood than a sheltered job for a friend down south where you're not around people. You're not forced to make those sort of decisions.
Yeah.
When you went to college, did you feel that there were some maybe sheltered kids, but they weren't the Alaskan ones?
Yes. I feel there actually is a lot of Alaskan people that go to NIC. And so it was kind of fun. We all like hang out like we'd have Shane Webb from Sitka over to our apartment all the time this year. And it was just kind of, it was weird to see, like, he kind of was the same way too. He does port security in Sitka, and like, he thought people were immature also. I mean, especially in Coeur d'Alene, because that's kind of a more well-off community. So a lot of those kids, they have not had to work a day in their life, and it's obvious.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of rough. Was the lower 48 like what you expected? Was it awesome, but you didn't want to stay? Was there any point where you thought, man, I really want to fish, but it might not be too bad of an idea to also be down here? Were you ever tempted to stay?
When it was like 75 and I just left with a sunburn and then came home and got rained on all day long today, then I was like, oh man, did I really think that through enough? But then you catch fish and you're like, well, that was awesome. So it kind of pays off. But
doing that in Idaho.
Yeah, I definitely had moments where I was like, oh my gosh, you can just like drive across the state line here. This is crazy. I can go places.
Did you go on some road trips when you were in college?
I did. I broke down in Cle Elum and spent my 20th birthday there.
In Cle Elum, Washington.
Yeah.
Nice.
Podunk. Not much to do there.
No, by lower 48 standards. And that's the thing. Ketchikan would be podunk anywhere else. But because you're out on the ocean, it's like paradise.
Oh, yeah.
But some of those communities in between the real communities, there's not a whole lot to do.
Yeah. There were like 15 minutes from one end of the town to the other, and that's like walking slowly. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we went to Mount Rainier, walked around there quite a bit, did some cool hikes, and then the Oregon coast a couple times, and over to Missoula very often.
Nice. It's nice to be able to see, and that was the same thing with me going to Arizona. That way you can make it a real decision about if you like the lower 48 or not.
Yeah.
You're not just staying here forever, never having just seen what it is down there. So you kind of know you're making a choice to stay here or a choice to come back rather than be stuck here forever and just justify it.
Yeah.
So what's summer looking like? How booked are you? How busy are you? And
Well, I think that the summer is going to be much busier than last. And last summer was record breaking. This one's also projecting to break another record. And we are pushing the charters more than we ever have at the Cove, at least. So I'm honestly not expecting another day off until probably October.
oh, wow.
So yeah, that's kind of what it was last year. It's definitely start to pick up in the end of May. Yesterday was the last day we have one cruise ship in Ketchikan until like a long time from now.
Yeah, obsessive, ridiculously long. Like there's no reason for them to be here in October, but it makes some money,
they're coming until like the 28th. Yeah. I'm like, you guys are going to get blown by port. It's going to be miserable.
Yeah, Jim's going to be doing deer hunting charters.
Yes,
just a little beach hunting for a couple hours. How many days did you do last year?
I had like 4 days off the whole summer. And it's long days too. When you get a single, it feels like a day off, so that's nice. But you're still working in like the morning or the afternoon. You're having 4 hours of work either way. But on Fridays when it's super busy, we work from like 6 a.m. until 8 p.m. You're doing 3 charters in one day. Your first charter goes great. You got the morning bite. It's like, hey guys, my name's Hannah. Let's do this thing. The second one is like, hey guys, this is going to be a little slower, but I'm still, let's do this. The third one, you're like, what is my name? Did I tell you how to like set the hook? Do you know what you're doing? Have you ever fished before? Because I'm not sure I can anymore.
So is it just like nonstop coffee, Red Bull? How are you getting through that?
I don't normally drink coffee. I try not to drink Red Bull. It's just pure will. It's actually crazy now that I'm like looking back at it. I must have gotten weaker over the winter because I'm like, even doing a double seems so hard.
Yeah, get back into it. Some of the stuff is a young man's game, young person's game. That's grueling. Some of my buddies who've been guides or even the commercial fishermen too, it's just grueling, and there's no union break. There's no 40-hour work weeks. It is just you go and you go and you go, and that's tough. That's real tough. I'd rather play.
Yeah, I have to say keeping a good attitude is challenging once you start getting to it's the smaller things start making you more mad than they used to. And you kind of just got to like brush it off and be like, okay, this person is new. They haven't fished before with me. I haven't told them what to do. And so it's kind of just keeping yourself in the game and just having fun. I feel like that makes all the difference in the world.
Mm-hmm. What would you recommend for someone who's looking to get into the charter game, whether it be a boy or a girl, man or woman?
Man, you better love fishing. And if you do love fishing, you have to realize that it's going to change it for you. Because you can't go do something every single day and then not look at it as a job. Because I'll go out and I'll kingfish now, and I'm like, man, I fish in the same spot. It's the same thing. I see the same things. And it's like, you have to realize that it's going to change that perspective. And if you don't, then you're being naive and you just think you're going to go have fun fishing every day. And it's not you fishing. It's you catering fishing for someone else.
And watch someone ruin it. Just totally screw it up.
Oh, yeah. And it's so many times you'd be like, just give me that rod. Just hand it over.
Yeah. Have you reread Old Man of the Sea? Because you hated that book in high school.
I did.
You thought it was. Did you reread it?
I did not.
Oh, okay. One of these years, I think you're going to reread it and you're going to appreciate it. But
I might have to.
Yeah. Well, any closing thoughts? Appreciate you being on here. Give a pitch to where can people book if they're off the cruise ships, or how do they get a hold of either First City, or is it First City through Knutson, or does Knutson then disperse the charters?
For like my dad, it's First City Charters. They do have a really long waiting list, but definitely get on that if you want to go fishing in the next couple of years. For any actually charter place in Ketchikan, pretty much everybody's booked out that far. But for cruise ship charters, they're just 3-hour salmon charters. Go straight through Knutson Cove. You'll save a ton of money instead of booking through the cruise ships.
Mm-hmm. Where can is it Instagram for both of those, or what?
You can just look up either one on like Google.
Okay, on like Google.
On like Google.
Okay, all right. Well, thanks for being on here. Really appreciate it. Good luck fishing. I'm going to enjoy fishing all summer.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah.